Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video I'm going to be going over our cardiac output monitors that we connect the Swan Ganz catheter, our pulmonary artery catheters to. I'm going to be going over the Vigilance 2, which is the older model, and then I'm going to be going over the newer model, the Hemisphere. Both of these are going to connect to a pulmonary artery catheter. These will not connect to the arterial line, rather the Edwards monitor that connects to the arterial line that will give you hemodynamic measures is the EV1000. And there is another video on how to set that up, so I recommend if you're looking for that, go ahead and go watch that video. If not, let's go ahead and get started with this one. So we have our Swan, which is inserted into our cordis right now. Whenever you have the Swan in the cordis, essentially it's going to be going through a central vein into the right atrium, and then it will go into the right ventricle, and then the end will be floated into the pulmonary artery. Essentially, with your Swan, you're going to have multiple lumens open, and these are going to be opening in specific areas. So this lumen here that you see, you can see that that's actually going to be in the right atrium. This brown coloration on your line is actually going to be the portion that's in your right ventricle, and that's going to be telling your monitor what your cardiac output is, and your cardiac index will be calculated based off of that. At the end of your line, you're going to have an opening lumen that will sense your pulmonary artery blood pressure, and then around the end of the line you're going to have a kind of plastic balloon that you can inflate using your red ports. So that's where the lines open up. Over at the insertion point of the Swan, you're going to have this thicker white port, and essentially there's a hole up here that the entire Swan will go in through, and it'll go through the physical line itself. In addition, you'll have, maybe one or two extra lumens that you can put blood through, IV solutions, medications, etc. So right now, what's keeping my Swan from being pulled out is this little divot that we have locked in place. If I was going to DC my Swan and I wanted to keep my cordis, essentially what I would do is I'm going to move that divot to the center, and then I could pull this whole thing out and leave the cordis in. So essentially I would just pull it out there. I'm going to go ahead and lock it back in place. So that's an important thing. If this isn't locked in place, then your Swan could potentially come out. The other thing that is locked on here is this plastic sheath. This is what's keeping your line sterile. So if they put the line in and they discover, oh, the line is not in place correctly, we need to advance it a couple of centimeters, that's fine, because you still have this plastic sheath. This whole thing is still sterile. All you would do is you would unlock, and you could essentially advance your line more and more and more. And then once it's in place, then you just lock it again. But now your line is not moving. It's not going to be pulled out or anything like that. Inside your plastic covering, you're going to see your Swan itself. You're going to have marks of measurement on here. So your thicker line is going to be a mark of 50, thin lines are marks of 10. So this mark right here is the 70 centimeter marking. So whenever you're measuring your internal length, what you're going to do is you're going to measure from the yellow hub to the nearest marking you see, and you're going to subtract this measurement from this measurement, and that will be the internal length of the Swan. So here I have it pretty close to the 60. So this one would be in the internal length of the Swan, it would be 60 centimeters. So again, you have your markings. Thick mark is 50 centimeters, thin marks are 10, so this is 70. You always want to make sure to hand off what the internal length of the Swan is. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at our pulmonary artery catheter lines that we have here. You have quite a few. You have 3 that are going to connect to your monitor. This will connect to the Vigilance 2, or it will connect to the Hemisphere, and it's just whichever machine you're able to grab. If you're able to grab the Hemisphere, go ahead and grab that first and then go for your Vig 2. Another 3 you'll have which connect to, 2 of these will connect to your pressure line setup. One of them you can use as a IV infusion port. So the blue one here, if you're guessing CVP, you are correct. Blue is consistent with what's going to be on our pressure line setup, the cord that connects it to the monitor, and on the monitor what's going to pop up. So that's going to be your CVP. You have your yellow. When you connect this end to a pressure line setup, connect it to the yellow cord goes into your monitor. You're going to get your pulmonary artery blood pressure. Your white port is your proximal infusion port, and that's proximal to the insertion point of the catheter. So this is going to be somewhere in your superior vena cava, maybe it's in your IJ, subclavian, etc. But you can give meds through here. You can give meds through your white or your blue. Do not give meds through your yellow, because that's going to go to your lungs, and we don't want medications to go into the lungs. I'd rather it go to the heart, so we're going to go to our blue or our white. The last port you have on here is your balloon port. So right now all the lines are lined up, so this means that the balloon port is open. There is a special syringe that attaches, and this will only go to 1.5 cc's of air. So you want to make sure that when you're assessing your patient, if they have a Swan, you want to make sure that this syringe is empty. You can go ahead and unlock it. When you unlock it and detach the syringe, any air that is in your balloon that's wedging it will escape. You can get rid of that air, and you're going to go ahead and screw it on and lock it. So this is how your Swan should look all the time. If you come in and it looks, like this, you may be wedging your patient, so go ahead and take it off, let the air escape, lock it, put it back on. And that is your lumens. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to connect your Swan to your Hemisphere. The Hemisphere is the new cardiac output monitor, the newer version of the cardiac output monitor that we have from Edwards. The power button is in the front. The power cord is connected in the back of the monitor. If this is plugged in, you're going to see a nice orange yellow color on the power button. We're going to go ahead and press power on. It's going to turn green. To note, on the right hand side of your monitor, you are going to have your normal values with the reps numbers. So if you ever have questions and your super user or your charge is not able to answer those questions, go ahead and call the reps. So right now it's going to be doing a self-test. On the right hand side of your monitor, you're going to have your cord connections. 2 cords are needed to connect your Swan to the monitor. The first one is going to be your gray end, which aligns of course with what your monitor has here. So I'm going ahead and plug that in. And then same thing with your other cord. Has a perfect spot for it to go as well. And the ends of these cords look like this. So you're going to have these ends to your cord. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to connect those now. So we have the end of our Swan. Your blue clip is going to come in here. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. Place there. And then it's closed back up. So now this is in place, it's secure. I'm going to take my other ends here, and all the colors are going to line up. I'm going to go ahead and place these in, and this will go ahead and screw on. So I'm going to push that in and then screw it on. There you go. So again, could unscrew this, take it out. The arrows are going to align here, and I'm going to screw that back on. So don't be pulling these out. But now all my connections are made to my monitor. So when you turn on the monitor, it's going to give you the option to add a new patient or continue the same patient. If it's been 72 hours since the patient has been on this monitor, it will just show new patient. I'm going to go ahead and press new patient. When you do that, it's going to ask you to put in a little bit of information. You're going to go ahead and put in the patient's ID number, their height, their weight, age, gender. What you'll be doing here is essentially getting the body surface area of this patient. So I currently have this in demo mode. Essentially, after you connect your Swan and you put in that information, all you got to do is go ahead and press the go. After this point, it's going to take about a minute for you to get your initial readings. Similar to your EV1000, you're going to have the option to change your screen. So if I wanted to change my screen, I would come over here. I could choose, whichever figure I wanted to look at. This is a popular one because you get to see the cardiovascular system. Another screen that I find is helpful is this screen here, which is going to give you your trends of the patient. So you can, if you haven't updated your flow sheet, you're behind, you can come back here in time and write all those values down. So let me go back here. If you wanted to change the number of values that you see on your screen, essentially you would go back here and you could choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'm going to go ahead and press 4 and go ahead right there. So right now I have it set to give me my cardiac output, cardiac index, and this SCO is your stat cardiac output. This cardiac output will be popping up every 5 minutes. This stat cardiac output will happen every minute. So I definitely recommend, if you don't have stat cardiac output on this monitor, that you put it on there, just because it's going to give you the value more frequently. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to have your date, your time. It's going to have your core body temp. Now I will show you how to calibrate. So calibrate is going to be under this clear marking here. You're going to go to your nurse's bag and you're going to do oximetry calibration. So when you're doing oximetry calibration, essentially what you're doing is you're going to calibrate your SVO2. Your SVO2, just think of it as, if oxygen is a passenger on a train, the train is the blood. The blood picks up the passengers, the oxygen, at the lungs. It carries it over to the cells, drops it off. Some of the oxygen will drop off the train at the cells, but a majority of it will remain in the venous system. So your SaO2 is, when you're explaining it to your patients and their family members, your SaO2 is the percent of the hemoglobin that is saturated with oxygen. Rather, your SVO2 is the percent of your hemoglobin that is saturated with oxygen, but rather in the arterial blood with your SaO2, this is in the venous blood, your SVO2. So how you get your SVO2 calibrated is you're gonna go to your nurse's bag, you're gonna choose oximetry calibration, and then you're going to go to in vivo calibrations. It's then going to do a 25-second calibration. At this point, you are going to be getting a ABG syringe from your RTs. You're going to be drawing blood from the yellow port on the Swan. When you're going to draw your blood from your Swan, you're going to go ahead and press draw. At that point, then it's marking when you drew your SVO2, clearly here, the time. Your RT is going to run your VBG, and you're going to get the SVO2 off of the ABG. You will need to have a current H&H to do your oximetry calibration. So I'm going to go ahead and put in those numbers. We're just going to say, 21%. Let's say our SVO2, this was 65. On our VBG. Now we're going to press calibrate. It's going to take 25 seconds, and then after that you'll be getting continuous SVO2 on your monitor here. So now, as you can see, I got my SVO2 running continuously. On my SVO2, I can see there is 4 boxes here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4. If I have 4 boxes filled up, essentially what that means is I'm not getting an accurate reading. Maybe the end of my line is on a vessel. Maybe, the cord is just reading inaccurately. It's an old cord, or it's an old Swan, and so it's not reading accurately. What you're going for is that 1 to 2 boxes. 1 to 2 boxes means that it's going to be accurate. So yes, that's essentially that. So that is how to calibrate. Of course, you have your settings where you can change your patient data. You can go to the monitor settings, all this stuff. Your silence buttons here. Remember, if you want to change which values you are viewing on here, what you're going to do is click the gray. You can choose which values you want. Pretty much the only values though that we can see, or that I recommend that you see, are going to be these top 4 and then your SpO2. This monitor, because it does not get values from our cardiac monitors such as heart rate, arterial blood pressure, MAP, our PA pressures, it's not getting that information, so it can't calculate your SVR. So these top 4 and your SvO2 is really the limitations of our monitor currently. Now what I can do if I want to get calculations on certain hemodynamic values is I could go to my nurse's bag and I can put derived value calculator. Now essentially here what I'm going to do is I can put in all this information. I can put my hemoglobin in there, I can put my mean arterial PA pressure, let's just say it's 15, let's say that my PaO2 is 100%, and my wedge pressure is 10. Essentially then I can get a few values up here. I'm gonna get my stroke volume, my PVR, I'll get my SVR, and that's just from all the calibrations that I've been doing here. That concludes the Hemisphere tutorial. If you have any questions, please reach out to your super user, your charge. You can also, if you run into problems, you can call the reps using their phone numbers here. And that's all I have on this. So now I'm going to show you how to set up your Swan when you are not able to use the Hemisphere. Rather, you need to use the Vigilance 2. Reasons why you would use the Vig 2 instead of the Hemisphere are going to be if the Hemisphere is currently being used, or if it's broken. If not, then you're going to go for your Vig 2. We have 2 of these on the unit still. So plug-in cord for your Vig 2 is going to be in the back. Button's going to be here, so you're going to go ahead and press that on. As far as your cord connections, the same gray cord that we used for the Hemisphere is still here. Going to plug into our gray here, and then we have a red cord similar to with your Hemisphere, but instead the end of this cord will look different. This is one of the changes that Edwards made whenever they were updating the machine. Instead, you have still your red end of the cord, which is going to plug in here. The end of the red cord is going to look different. Instead of the clip, you're going to have to just slide in the blue clip here and just press it in. You'll hear a click and those securements are made. So the only thing about this is it's pretty difficult to take this out. You have to really pull on it to get the blue clip out, but I want to go ahead and keep that in so that way y'all can see there. So yes, your securements are going to be pretty much the same except this clip here. So make sure that you get appropriate cords when you are using these monitors. Now here with the Vigilance, I'm going to go ahead and set the height and weight of this patient. I do not need to be putting in any other information for this monitor. So to do that, essentially you're going to be using your toggle to go parameter to parameter, and then whenever you have it over that parameter, so on height, I'm going to go ahead and click it. Now I can choose between inches and centimeters. I'm going to go ahead and do inches, and we'll just say the patient is 5'6". I'm going to go over to weight, put my patient's weight in. We'll just say they're 83 kgs. Body surface area will be calculated, and I'm going to press continue. Okay, so I went ahead and put the monitor in demo mode just so that we could see some numbers on here actually, since I'm not putting this Swan isn't in an actual patient right now. So to get your cardiac output running, similar to on the other machine you had your green go button, this is your green go button. So you're going to press that and then after about a minute, it is going to get your cardiac output and will calculate your cardiac index. Your core temp is going to be down here. You got your time. You're going to see your graphic trends of the patient. Now, a problem with this machine is that you cannot see what your previous numbers were. So if you come here and it's been, 3 hours since you last wrote down your cardiac output, you're not going to be able to get that back. You can look at your trends and, calculate if you'd like, or just estimate, but to get accurate readings, you'll have to get this every hour. So now I'm going to be showing you how to get your SVO2. So what you're going to do is you're going to toggle over to where your SVO2 is. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then I'm going to go down to in vivo calibration, and I'm going to click it. Again, it's going to do a baseline setup for 25 seconds. At this point, I'm going to get my VBG syringe from my RT. They're going to be ready to get my VBG. I'm going to be drawing this from my yellow port on my Swan. I'm going to give them the blood, and the next screen is going to be that I drew the blood. I'm going to go ahead and press draw now. And once I get my results, I'm going to go ahead and put them in. So we'll say my SVO2 was just say 70.5, and then I'm going to put my hemoglobin in, and we'll just say it was 7. Clicking that. Hematocrit's automatically going to pop up. Once those 3 values are put in, I'm going to go ahead and press calibrate. It's going to take 25 seconds for it to get that value, and then I'm going to be continuously seeing what my SVO2 is up here. Again, on the side here, we have the silence button. Here we can go back in time if we wanted to, but again, it's not going to be giving me those exact values. Rather, it will go back in time on your graph here. If I want to stop running my cardiac output, which I don't know why you would want to do that, but it's there, you'll go ahead and press this button again, and that will stop it. So now, like I've said before, you can see your SVO2 continuously here. You have those 4 bars set up here. 1 to 2 is great. 3 starting to be inaccurate. 4 is this reading is inaccurate. So do not go off of the SVO2 when it is that. I'm going to go ahead and press return on here. And we're good to go. That is your Vig.